So there's this clip going viral online of a dozen women being asked the following question: do we need men? Most answered very quickly, no. And only one said she thought women needed a man in their lives. Only one.
What would happen if all men on Earth disappeared? While some women might think it's a great idea, the reality would be absolute chaos. The first major issue would be electricity. About 90% of the people who maintain and repair power grids are men, meaning that within days, much of the world would be left in darkness. Next, say goodbye to eating fish for a long time. Since the vast majority of fishermen are men, the fishing industry would collapse. That wouldn't be too bad if women could rely on meat instead, but most livestock farmers are also men, which means meat production would also plummet. So what's left? Women might have to forage for food like their nomadic ancestors, living off berries and whatever they can find in nature. Or maybe they'd try hunting, but that would mean traveling long distances, which wouldn't be easy considering that 9 out of 10 people who know how to repair vehicles are men. Of course, all of this suffering wouldn't last long, because within 100 years, humanity would cease to exist.
This is what would happen if men stopped existing. For some reason, not all girls, only a small select few of them, are living in a world of complete hatred to the opposite gender, which I don't know why. They just have this natural prejudice against all men, which is ridiculous. So let's go through what would happen if men stopped existing. Firstly, I'm not kidding, the earth would literally explode. The footage got corrupted for the first time ever, but oil refineries and nuclear plants need constant care, and the people who occupy those jobs happen to be male. Mostly. And if they don't receive the care that they're supposed to get, they would explode. And if they explode, radiation goes everywhere and the earth would be destroyed. Okay, back to the video. Pilots are 97% men. So if men disappeared, flying from place to place would become 90% harder. Once again, men need women, women need men. Don't wish the death on anybody. Just because whatever dirt that hurt you happened to be a male does not mean that half the population of Earth should go away. That's silly.
Women do not need men to get bank accounts, houses. They have careers on their own.
Yeah, but who built the bank? Who protects the money that's in the bank? Who developed all the digital systems so that you could track how much money you have in the bank? Already off to a bad start.
No, you still rely on men. It's just indirect now. See, men have always been in between women and the real world. That your office job is not real life.
Yep.
Here's another depiction of that. Here's men going out to face danger and build things on the outside in order to create a safe space for women on the inside. This is how it's always been, and it still is. You just don't understand that because you're too comfortable.
Exactly.
Men still do all the hard work.
Yeah, and really what it comes down to is a lack of understanding of violence. And when you have a lack of understanding of violence, you have a lack of understanding of what nature really is and the underlying principle of nature. There are women that are so disassociated with reality that they are saying, and I see this in the majority of women when they're asked this question, that they would rather be in the woods with a bear than a man. Do you understand how delusional and disassociated with reality you have to be to say something like that? It's absolutely insane. And it's because they don't understand violence. Do you know what a bear does? A bear isn't going to kill you. A bear is going to hold you down, start eating, and from him eating you, that's what's going to kill you. So I guess by proxy, the bear is going to kill you, but it ain't going to be as short as you think it is. And so there are women in our society now that believe that they don't need men because they get the benefits of men by proxy. And it's because of the state. It's because of the government. It's because of our jobs. And it goes underappreciated because they think if they sit in a nice, cushy AC job, they're doing the same job as a guy that's building their house. And so the sacrifices that men have made to build society this great has unfortunately backfired and made it so that women no longer respect the sacrifices that men make in order to make society safe for them.
If all women stopped working right now, we'd be fine. If all men stopped working, everyone would die.
Yep.
And that is, again, because men make all the food and build all the houses and the walls, and they used to guard the border. I guess they gave up on that. Women have never done that and can't. Men still do all of the necessary things to create the space for you to have your girl bossing fun time. The way it works is that women are always really happy for men to do the hard, dangerous work until times are really good. And
yeah, like I'll hear women talk about women weren't allowed to get jobs. I'm like, ma'am, do you understand that 100 years ago people worked 6 days a week? The only day you got off was Sunday. And the average work week was 60 hours a work week. And so you saying that women weren't allowed to work. I don't think the women that were, when the guys were building the pyramids of Giza, the women were complaining that the men were the only ones allowed to work. But only after we got nice AC, cushy office jobs with pizza parties, all of a sudden women weren't allowed to work. It was a privilege to not have to do those hard jobs where you was out in the sun in 100 degrees, slave labor. It used to be a privilege to not have to do those jobs. But all of a sudden now, you know, it's kind of backfired on the masculine again.
Build something better than this. And then you look around and you go, hey, men have more than us. No fair. You go to the government, which writes some laws for you, which makes you equal. And then you are disgusted by men who are equal to you. So without equality laws, it's very easy for women to find men they respect. And with equality laws, it's very difficult. And then everyone tells these men that they're worthless. And then they go, okay, well, I don't want to be this guy, so I'll just be this guy. And then they never grow up and they never do anything. Yep. And then you hate them even more. So your girl bossing crap is just not going to last very long because women cannot do what men do. You can't do that work of building the physical world.
Yep.
And what you're doing now is just sort of taking it away from men and having it for yourself without giving them anything back, which makes them go away. And then, like, imagine if you had to build a house. It's not going to happen. And then when men go away, then there is nothing in between you and bad stuff. So
men, yep.
You might want to stop being so mouthy.
And that's the funniest part to me. A lot of women don't understand the only thing that separates them and chaos is good men. Women have been taught to hate men and to fear men because men are violent. But less than 1% of men are actually violent criminals, and even most of those men aren't committing violent crimes against women. The truth of the matter is, the reason why violent men aren't violent towards women who want to be violent towards women is because they know they'll have to answer to other men who will beat them down or lock them up for being aggressive towards women. So literally the thing that you're told to hate as a woman with feminism involved in your brain and your line of thinking is the only thing that protects you from the actual evils of the world. And you can't even see it because you just get the privileges. And I think that's where entitlement ultimately comes from. It comes from a lack of understanding of your privileges, understanding that your privileges come from somebody else's sacrifice, and no longer appreciating those sacrifices and just being entitled to it now because it's just something that you believe you should have. And I think this is where we are in modernity. I think this is the modern world. And what a lot of ladies have to understand is femininity is a privilege that is only allowed when you have the masculine to protect the femininity and allow it to flourish. And that's the reason why you see a lot of women who have to do things on their own become more masculine, because masculinity is necessary for survival. Femininity is only allowed to thrive if you have the protection of the masculine to protect the femininity from the harshness of reality, essentially. And so there are just a lot of ladies in our current society that are just underappreciative of the sacrifices that men have made in the past and that men continue to make for them to exist in such a privileged society. It is a privilege to say that you don't need a man. You go to other countries where family is valued or where you need a family to survive. There aren't these social security programs, so when you get old, you have money coming from the government. You need your kids to do farm labor to help you as you get older because you just don't have those privileges in your society. Those people don't say that they don't need men because they're closer to reality, because they still deal with the harshness of the world. But again, because we've made everything so nice and people don't understand violence and people don't understand how violent the world could be anymore, you get to say privileged things like, I'd rather be in the woods with a bear than a man, which is insane to me. Luckily for ladies, though, men aren't as violent as they think we are, because if we were as violent as they think we are, a lot of ladies would just be victims of violence and there's nothing that they could do about it. But luckily for them, even if we have to work behind the scenes and be invisible, there are a lot of guys that are willing to fight and die for the protection of women, even if they don't appreciate it. Till next time.